And again, it doesn't matter where the vulnerability is, because as long as the request comes from that domain, I can query that database. There are going to be many sites that are going to be deploying client-side storage that are going to be vulnerable. I have little doubt about that. Another thing that I think we should keep an eye on, because it's an interesting angle for this, is web-based worms. So, you know, we've seen web-based worms. SAMI kind of came onto the spotlight a few years ago. This past year, we had the Stock Daily worm. So now, though, we have the ability for client-side storage. So we have this persistent storage. A web-based worm, the persistency always occurred on the server side. So like the Stock Daily worm, it was actually infecting a form field on a user's profile. Well, now part of the persistency could be offline. So, you know, maybe even if the website cleans something up, somebody else comes back online, they actually have that malicious JavaScript stored on their client side. You know, maybe they can push things and use kind of drop boxes. I don't know. It's up to the creativity of the attackers, but definitely gives a new angle there. So just some of my predictions going forward. I think that Gears adoption will die off as HTML5 gets more widely adopted. HTML5 adoption is going to be bigger on sites that are geared toward the mobile market because of some of the limitations of technologies that aren't available on mobile devices like Flash and Gears. Vulnerable sites, we'll continue to see sites pushing the limits of traditional storage technologies, cookies, local shared objects. So we'll see all kinds of interesting things there. But you know, the biggie is that as sites start to adopt Gears and especially HTML5, I think this whole concept of data leakage or stealing data from this client-side relational database will become a much, much bigger issue. And with that, I thought I'd leave you with something memorable. Fortunately, this guy's not my neighbor. Any questions about things that we talked about? Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any room on the clients to like restrict usage of the database, like based on an SSL or non-SSL site, or is there any room in the spec to work that sort of?
So not that I've seen. You know, I certainly haven't read the whole spec, but I've not seen that. As far as I can tell, it's not restricted by path, and it's not restricted by, you know, the transmission medium. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a question. Do you see the usage of cookies changing with this? Like, will the site shift to use local database instead?
Yeah, I do think that cookies are certainly less valuable. Even, like, if you think of, so the question was, sorry, I should repeat that. The question was, are we going to see the usage of cookies change because now there's these other options available? So yeah, and I think we've already seen that. Like, I think many developers are actually using both traditional cookies and Flash cookies. They use both because maybe somebody doesn't have Flash enabled, so I still want to have that traditional cookie. But Flash gives me a great backup. You know, if somebody flushes their cookies, all I have to do is create my page in such a way so that it looks for a regular cookie, doesn't see one. Okay, step 2, look for a Flash cookie. Finds that, oh, okay, rewrite the original cookie, so it doesn't matter if they flushed it. You know, now here's 2 more options for local storage. So yeah, I think you know, cookies are less important because we have these other options. But you know, today we don't have broad enough adoption to just say, hey, I don't need cookies anymore. Yeah, go ahead.
Along similar lines, do you think that the browser developers are going to be clever enough to ensure that, although the HTML spec doesn't require that explicit permission be obtained by a user, do you think the browser developers will build that in anyway, given that privacy is so important to users now?
They certainly could, although, you know, my opinion is, so the question is, explicit permission is not required to create this relational database with HTML5. Gears does do it, not with HTML5. Will the browser vendors make that? In my personal view, I think browser vendors are really against anything that kind of degrades the browsing experience, right? And getting that pop-up does that. And the reason it's okay for Gears is very few sites have Gears, so you get a pop-up a couple times a month, big deal. You know, imagine, I think we're definitely moving to a place where most sites will have relational database storage. You know, that'll be a really common thing, so you'd get pop-ups all over the place. So my guess would be no, they probably wouldn't do that. Yeah, red hair.
It certainly helped with the GeoIP stuff that's been put in that Firefox 6.6, and then I saw it pop up.
Yeah, so she mentioned that you are getting that pop-up for like the geolocation stuff. And yeah, good point, Firefox is doing that. But, you know, hey, will they still do that when, you know, 500 sites a day do it? Hard to say. So we don't, and in the end, I mean, that's not really creating better security. You know, it's like Windows Vista failure. You know, it just asks every end user, you know, do you want to install this? Do you want to install this? Believe me, I can't tell you the number of phone calls I got from my mother. Should I click on this link? And I'm like, Mom, just get off the web. It's probably your best bet. Yeah, go ahead.
How long do you think it's going to take for HTML5 to be adopted? And is given all these open questions about security, are they actually going to do something on the security side in terms of
So how long?
some of these potential obvious things that you're citing?
Yeah, so how long for HTML5 to be adopted, and will they add increased security for these things? So as far as the adoption, I think on the desktop browser, we're actually probably years away because, you know, like for certain, I mean, number one, the HTML5 spec isn't done yet, right? It's it's still ongoing. Number two, for this particular piece, the relational database piece, IE doesn't support it, Firefox doesn't support it, Opera doesn't support it. So we, at the very least, have to wait for another iteration of browsers. So say that's a year away. And then, you know, people actually have to start adopting it. But I don't think it matters because I think what's really going to drive it are these devices. And today, right now, Android and the iPhone can handle this relational database capability. And the biggest driver, the company that's building the most HTML5 sites, in my opinion, is Google. And hey, I mean, they're a big trendsetter. So I think that, you know, the mobile world is becoming so much more important. So how long will it take in the mobile world? I think it's already happening. I think it'll take longer in the desktop world. Oh, and the security piece was the last one. Sorry. We don't learn from our mistakes. You know, we have this fresh start. You know, we can create this thing. And you know, when I first got this, I was like, oh, wow, cool. It has no security whatsoever. You know, all these lessons that we learned on the desktop browser, you know, now we have phishing block lists and malicious URL block lists, and IE has cross-site scripting protection. Nothing on any mobile browsers. You know, we don't learn from our mistakes, but the good news is we're all going to be employed for a very long time. Any other questions? All right, well, I'll stick around for a bit if you just want to chat one-on-one, but thank you very much.